The papers were already on the sideboard, next to the pie. My son had brought a notary to Thanksgiving dinner. My buddy Rick, he'll stamp it in 10 minutes, Dad. Then dessert. Everyone was laughing at something. And that's when my 20-year-old granddaughter hugged me. A long hug, longer than her usual, and I felt her hand slide something into my cardigan pocket. In the bathroom, with the fan on, I unfolded a piece of notebook paper. 6 words, in the careful handwriting of a girl who knew exactly what those 6 words could cost her. Grandpa, check your bank before you sign. I'm Eugene. Gene. To everyone but the doctor. I'm 74. And 4 minutes later, standing in my own den with my reading glasses on and my thumb shaking over a banking app, I learned that an account that should have held over $300,000, my whole life, my late wife's life, 40 years of both, held $11,206.44. And then, friends, and this is the part you're staying for, I put the phone in my pocket, walked back to that table, sat down across from the man who did it, and smiled, and asked what kind of pie we had. Because the girl who wrote that note needed me to be smarter, then I was angry. Stay with me. This one's cold. Every family has a golden boy. Ours is my son, Doug. And I want to do this fairly, because the internet is going to be hard enough on him by the end. Doug earned the shine, once. All conference in 2 sports, first to college on my side of the family, built a deck company into a real construction outfit with his name on 4 trucks. Married Pam, good woman, raised my granddaughter Katie. For 50 years of his life, when Doug walked into a room, the room improved, and nobody clapped louder than me. That's important. You have to know how much I loved clapping for him to understand what the $11,000 did to my chest. And every family has a quiet one. Ours is Katie. Katie is Doug's daughter, 20 years old, community college by day, and, since last spring, a teller at First Merchant Bank, the little branch on Cordon Street where I've banked since Nixon. She's the one who sits next to me at holidays and actually asks questions. 2 Christmases ago, her gift to me was, I laughed at it. God forgive me. She set up the banking app on my phone, sat with me for an hour. Grandpa, you should be able to see your own money without driving downtown. I thanked her and never opened it once. Hold on to that little app, friends, sitting patient and unopened on my phone for 2 years. The quiet ones give quiet gifts. Sometimes it takes the worst night of the year to find out what they're really for. Now, the third character in this story is a signature, mine. 14 months ago, my heart decided the valve it came with was more of a suggestion. Surgery, 11 days in the hospital, a recovery where I couldn't lift a gallon of milk. My Alma had been gone 3 years by then, and Doug stepped up, and I mean it. He stepped up, drove me, cooked, camped in the recliner. And in week 2 in that hospital he brought papers, power of attorney. Just for convenience, Dad, so I can pay your bills while you're down. And they added him to my checking, and I signed with the good arm, grateful to my bones, because when your golden boy holds the clipboard steady for you, you don't audit the clipboard. You regulars know this channel's oldest rule by now. Nobody ever hands you a cage. They hand you 1 bar at a time, and they call every bar a favor. The bills got paid. I healed up, and the power of attorney and the joint checking just stayed, the way a ladder stays against a house. Who takes down a ladder their own son might need? Here's the year that followed, and I'm going to walk it slowly, because from where you're sitting you'll see everything, and from where I sat, I saw nothing, and the space between those 2 views is exactly where men my age get robbed. First, my bank statements stopped coming in the mail. When I mentioned it, Doug said, I switched you to paperless, Dad. Saves you the shredding. Consider it. That's bar number 1. Second, Doug's business got quiet, not failing quiet, weird quiet. The 4 trucks became 3, then 2, and when I asked, it was consolidating, Dad. Everything's leverage now. You wouldn't believe the margins in materials. Somewhere in there, he stopped talking about decks and started talking about positions. Charts on his phone at Sunday dinner. A man 40 minutes deep in an app with green and red candles on it at a family lunch, telling his uncle about a thing called leverage, like he'd invented fire. Third, and this is the one that should have done it, last spring, Doug paid for things, sent Pam and Katie on a cruise. New truck, the big one, chrome like a parade. Business is turning, Dad. And then by August, the truck was gone. Sold it, didn't need it. And Pam had a look I recognized and couldn't place, the look of a woman doing arithmetic at night. And Katie, my Katie, got quiet even for Katie. She'd started at the bank by then. She'd stopped laughing at Doug's jokes. I chalked it up to 20. 20 is a quiet age. Friends, it was not 20. I know now, from where it all ended up, the statements, the affidavits, what my granddaughter's spring and summer actually looked like. A teller sees names all day, and one day in June, the name on a flagged transfer sheet was her grandfather's. She was 19 years old, 4 weeks into her first real job, staring at a pattern that professionals miss. And the pattern led through her own father. And the rules that come with her job are real. You don't discuss customer accounts. Not even your families, especially your families. One careless word and she loses the job, maybe worse. And she told me this part later, and I had to sit down. And if I was wrong, Grandpa, I'd have blown up the family for nothing. I needed you to look. I just couldn't be the one to show you. So she watched it for 5 months, checking, double-checking, praying she was wrong, while the number went down like a tide going out. And then Doug announced that this year, Thanksgiving would be at MY House. He'd bring everything, the whole spread. You shouldn't lift a finger, Dad. And almost as a footnote, oh, and I'm finally getting your paperwork sorted. That asset protection thing I mentioned. Rick'll come by after dinner, 10-minute thing. The tide, friends, had reached the last rock. The house. Thanksgiving, 4 o'clock. My table, his turkey. Doug carved like a man on a cooking show. Told the story about the state championship. 3rd time that year I'd heard it. But the table laughed. We always laughed. Pam was quiet. Katie sat next to me like always, and I noticed, later I understood, that she barely ate, and that she'd positioned her chair a half-inch closer to mine than usual, the way you'd sit near a door you might need. Rick arrived at 5, just in time for coffee. Rick had a folder and a stamp in a little zippered case, and the handshake of a man whose whole business is other men's trust. And over coffee, my son made the pitch, and I want to give it to you word for word, because somewhere out there tonight, somebody's father is hearing this exact speech, and I need him to recognize the melody. Dad, it's a transfer of the house into a family LLC. Standard thing now, every advisor recommends it. Protects the house if you ever need long-term care, so the state can't touch it. Nothing changes for you. You live here exactly like always. It's just paper. Honestly, we should have done it during the surgery. A little laugh. Rick does these all the time. 10 minutes, 1 signature, and we'll cut the pie. Nothing changes. It's just paper. Sign it, and let's have pie. I'll be honest with you, the way I always am. I was reaching for the pen in my mind. That's the part that keeps me up. Not that my son lied, but that the lie was dressed as love, and I was leaning in, protecting the house from nursing homes, for the family, the golden boy, handling things. And that's when my granddaughter stood up, said, "Grandpa, I almost forgot. Happy Thanksgiving," and hugged me. A long hug, longer than her usual, and her hand found my cardigan pocket, quick and flat as a card trick, and against my ear, so quiet it could have been a breath, she whispered, "Read it alone. I'm 74. I've been hugged maybe 50,000 times. That one, I'll take with me." Before pie, I announced to the table, "An old man's privileges," and I shuffled off down the hall with the note burning through the cardigan like a coal. 6 words. Careful handwriting. "Grandpa, check your bank before you sign." And in the den, with the bathroom fan running for cover, I finally opened Katie's 2-year-old Christmas gift and typed the password she'd taped inside my glasses case, because she'd thought of that too, 2 years ago. God bless the quiet ones. And the screen loaded, and there it was. Checking $4,318, savings $6,888, where $301,000 used to live. I stood in my den scrolling with my thumb. A year of it, friends. A whole year in 6 inches of glass. Transfers. 1,500 here, 4,000 there, then bolder. 9,000, 15,000, 22,000 in a single day in March. March, when the chrome truck arrived. Every one of them to the same name, DT Holdings, Douglas Thomas. My golden boy had named the getaway car after himself. Now, here is where this story earns whatever it earns. Because everything in me, 74 years of everything, wanted to walk back into that dining room and turn the table over. And I want you to feel the full weight of the reason I didn't, because it wasn't wisdom and it wasn't strategy. It was 6 words in careful handwriting. If I detonated at that table, the first question out of my son's mouth, tonight, tomorrow, in a lawyer's office, would be, "How did you know, Dad?" The statements were paperless. The mail was rerouted. The app? Who set up the app? Who works at the bank? There was exactly one road from my rage back to that girl, and it was 11 steps long and led straight through her career, maybe through federal privacy rules, and absolutely through whatever was left of her family. She had risked all of it on the bet that her grandfather could hold a poker face through pie. So I washed my face. I looked at the old man in the mirror and told him what Alma used to tell me before every hard room. "Slow is smooth, Gene." And I walked back in and sat down across from my son and said, "So what kind of pie did we end up with?" Friends, I ate a slice of pecan pie across the table from the man who emptied my accounts, and I complimented the crust, and it was the hardest physical thing I have done since her funeral. Doug relaxed by degrees. I watched the salesman's tension leave his shoulders, and when the plates were cleared, Rick unzipped his little case, and Doug slid the folder across my own table like a waiter presenting a check, and said, "Okay, Dad, 10 minutes. And I put my hand flat on the folder, friendly as Sunday, and I said the sentence that saved everything, and the beautiful part, the part I want every son and daughter watching this to remember, is that it wasn't even a lie. Alma had a rule: never sign anything on a holiday. 40 years, never once broke it. I'm not starting when she can see me. Bring it by Feld's office Tuesday. I'll sign whatever the lawyer likes." Silence. The particular silence of a plan hitting weather. Doug laughed. A beat late. "Dad, it's a formality. Rick came all this way." And I smiled wider and turned to the notary and asked, "Gentle as you please. Rick, you're bonded, of course. You'll be putting your commission number and your E&O carrier on a transfer of real property? And Rick, I'll treasure this." Rick looked at his coffee and then at Doug and said maybe Tuesday was better, actually, holidays being family time and all. A man's buddy will stamp a lot of things. He will not, it turns out, stamp them in front of a specific question. Doug pushed twice more before dessert ended, pushed with a smile, but pushed, and the second push had an edge under it I'd never heard aimed at me, a flash of something with its rent overdue. And Katie sat beside me eating pies she couldn't taste, and under the table, briefly, her hand squeezed my wrist. Twice. Some of you regulars just made a sound. Yes, 2 squeezes. It's a language, in this family of ours. It always has been. Except I didn't wait for Tuesday. Friends, Monday morning I was in the parking lot of First Merchant Bank at 8:40, and here is a detail I want you to note, because protecting your source is a discipline, not Katie's branch. The downtown branch, 20 minutes farther, where nobody shares a last name with me. By 9:02, everything I owned was frozen. Joint access, terminated. Power of attorney, revoked, notarized, delivered. The fraud department opened a case by 10, and the woman there, a Miss Okonkwo, with the calm of a surgeon, scrolled the same year I'd scrolled, and said the sentence that made it real. Mr. Thomas, this is one of the clearest elder financial exploitation patterns I've seen. You need a lawyer today, and possibly a detective this week. Lawyer Feld, Alma's cousin's boy, sharp as a tack, had the forensic picture in 9 days. $289,000 over 13 months. Where did it go? Where does it ever go now? A trading account, leverage, options. My son hadn't bought yachts, friends. That almost made it worse. He'd fed my life savings, $5,000 and $20,000 at a time, into a slot machine dressed as a spreadsheet, chasing back the money his business had already lost, absolutely certain, they are always absolutely certain, that the next trade fixed everything. The chrome truck in March wasn't a purchase. It was a win. That's how gamblers spend a win, so everyone can see that the plan is working. And the LLC, the asset protection, Feld found the loan application in Discovery. My house, the house Alma died in, was headed to a hard money lender as collateral within the month. There was a margin debt with a date on it. My son didn't bring a notary to Thanksgiving because it was convenient. He brought one because he had a deadline. The confrontation happened in Feld's office because I'm too old for driveways. My son came in wearing his salesman face, and Feld put the forensic report on the table and turned it around, page 1 facing Doug, and for a while nobody said anything, and then, friends, I learned that a face can go through bankruptcy. I watched it. The shine came off my golden boy in one long minute, and what sat there after was a 51-year-old man with red eyes, and a debt on the outside of him, and a wolf on the inside of him. And I asked him one question, not how, not where. I asked why, and my son looked at his hands and gave me the 4 coldest sentences of my long life, and I've promised you cold, so here they are. It was coming to me anyway, Dad. I just needed it early. I was going to put it back. You weren't even using it. You weren't even using it. 40 years of Alma's double shifts, sitting in an account, and the crime, in my son's arithmetic, was that it was resting. Feld laid out the 2 roads. Road 1, the district attorney, who, Miss Okonkwo's file being what it was, would not need to work hard. Road 2, a confessed judgment for every dollar. The trading account liquidated that week. The remaining trucks and equipment sold. A repayment schedule with teeth. A certified gambling addiction program with attendance verified to Feld quarterly. And Doug's name off every document of mine forever. I chose to offer Road 2, and I want to be straight with you about why, because the comments will fight about it, and they should. It wasn't mercy for Doug, it was Pam, who had done a year of arithmetic at night, and known and not known, the way you know and don't know a lump. And it was Katie. You do not build a girl a future by making her the witness who jailed her father. He took the deal. Men with deadlines always take the deal. 61,000 came back off the trading account. The trucks brought more. The rest comes monthly, and it will come monthly for 11 more years, and every check that clears is a small, strange prayer. One loose thread, and it's the one the whole story hung by. In Feld's office, at the end, Doug asked it. Of course he asked it. Who told you, Dad? Friday you were reaching for the pen. Monday you froze everything. Somebody told you. And I looked at my son, and past him, 20 years down the road, at a bank teller with careful handwriting whose name was never, ever going to be in this room. And I said, "Your mother told me. Never sign on a holiday. You were at the table, son. You watched her rules save my house. Pity you forgot she had rules." He believed it. Men like the man my son had become believe in bad luck faster than they believe in brave girls. Katie still works at the bank, promoted in the spring, universal banker now, whatever the universe has to do with it. She and Pam live in the small rental together, while the marriage figures out what it is. That's their story, not mine. And this channel doesn't read other people's mail. But I'll tell you 2 things that are mine. The first is that my will went through Feld's office in January, and the house, Alma's house, has a name on it now for someday, and the name is not Douglas. The second is that this Thanksgiving there were 4 of us, small table, store-bought pie, and nobody cared. And when Katie hugged me goodbye, a long hug, longer than her usual, I slipped a note into her coat pocket, 6 words, an old man's handwriting, and I'll let you sit with what it said, except to tell you she read it in her car, and I watched from the window, and she cried, and then she laughed, and honked twice on the way out. The first note lives in my wallet, behind Alma's picture, where the brave things go. Here's the lesson, and for once it isn't for us old-timers. It's for the young ones, the quiet ones, the grandkids watching this over our shoulders. You may one day see a thing you're not allowed to say, a pattern with a family name on it, and you'll learn what my Katie learned at 19, that there is a kind of courage that doesn't get to shout, that has to fold itself into 6 words and a hug, and then sit at the table eating pie it can't taste, hoping the old man is smart enough and slow enough to do the rest. The loud world will never give that courage a trophy, so we will. Right here, this one's for the tellers. The quiet ones see everything. Now, the comments, and this one's going to be a war, so let's have it. Feld's 2 roads. I chose the deal. The judgment, the program. 11 years of checks. To keep my granddaughter out of a witness chair. My neighbor says I bought my son out of a jail cell he earned. Team deal or team DA? And the second question, the one I actually lose sleep over, at what point in this story did you stop trusting Doug? Timestamp it. I read every single comment. And if you believe the quiet ones see everything, subscribe. Because next Sunday, a son sells his late mother's piano while his father is in the hospital. The buyer calls the old man first. What the buyer says on that phone call: "Friends, bring a jacket. It's another cold one. Take care of each other. And check your bank. Tonight." It's 6 words, and it's free.